My sister-in-law said I stole her spotlight. Then I made her kneel and apologize in front of everyone. I sat in the stiff velvet chair, trying to smile. The whole family was there for the annual Founders' Day Gala, which was really just an excuse for everyone to celebrate themselves. My sister-in-law, Claire, had been talking for weeks about the special surprise award she was going to get. She kept hinting about how much she deserved it and how she was the true face of the family's charitable efforts. My own small achievement, a local community grant I had secured for the children's library, felt tiny compared to her grand expectations. When the host, Uncle George, walked to the podium, Claire adjusted her shimmering dress and smoothed her hair, ready to bask in the applause. But Uncle George didn't say her name. He cleared his throat and announced, "We begin tonight with a truly selfless local hero who believes the light should shine on others, Eleanor." My heart jumped. That is my name. A spotlight hit me, blinding me as the whole room turned. I walked toward the stage, confused and nervous, hearing a low, sharp sound from behind me. Just as I passed Claire's table, she leaned in, her smile gone, replaced by a cruel, tight sneer. She didn't whisper it. She hissed it loud enough for several people nearby to freeze. "Someone stole my moment." The words felt like a slap. A wave of gasps and shocked murmurs washed over the room as I kept walking, clutching the small wooden plaque Uncle George gave me. I could feel the heat of Claire's glare on my back. I took my small award, thanked the crowd quickly, and rushed back to my seat, but the damage was done. When I looked back, Claire wasn't there. She had stormed out dramatically, leaving a cold, empty chair and a room full of awkward silence. The night should have been a good memory, but all I could think about was Claire's hateful look and that sharp comment. The next morning, the drama continued, not face-to-face, but online. My cousin, Leo, had been filming the whole ceremony with his phone. He was sitting right near Claire's table and had managed to catch the whole thing. The video was shaky, but the sound was clear. Leo had posted a short clip in the family group chat, thinking it was funny, but it quickly became an uncomfortable focal point. As the applause started for me on the screen, Claire was shown very clearly turning to her husband, my brother, and mouthing the words, "Not her," with a roll of her eyes. The video clip was only 3 seconds long, but it showed everything. The group chat exploded. People reacted with shocked face emojis, and some cousins even left the chat. My brother, trying to defend his wife, just posted a single text. "It was a joke, guys. Get over it." But the clip wasn't a joke, it was a nasty public snub. I felt a knot of anger tighten in my stomach. Later that night, I got a strange notification. It was a text message Claire had sent to a friend, but she had accidentally sent it to the group chat instead. She must have been too angry to check the name. The message was short and chilling. "I know how to deal with the spotlight thief. We'll fix this." It was gone within seconds, but I saw it. I took a screenshot before it vanished. The thought that she was now planning a mean trick, probably for the upcoming family reunion, made my hands tremble. Claire's plan didn't take long to show up. A few days later, the whole extended family went to a nice restaurant to celebrate Aunt Susan's promotion. It was a happy, easygoing dinner until Claire decided to take over the conversation. She stood up, without being asked, and started to loudly tell a story about a time a few years ago when I had organized a community fun run. She twisted the facts until they were almost unrecognizable. In her version, I hadn't organized the run to raise money for new park benches. Instead, I had done it just so I could wear a fancy running outfit and get my picture in the local newspaper. She ended the story with a big, fake sigh, saying, "Honestly, Eleanor is sweet, but she has always been so attention-seeking since we were kids. Some people just can't stand not being the main event." A few cousins started to nervously laugh, and the sound landed on me like sharp, heavy stones. It hurt more than the guests at the gala because this time, the cruelty was dressed up as a joke, making it harder to fight back. I felt my cheeks burn with shame and frustration. I wanted to scream, "That's a lie," but I just sat there, frozen, feeling the eyes of everyone on me. Later, when I was quietly walking to the restroom, my youngest cousin, Sarah, quickly slipped me a small, folded note. It was a reply to Claire's nasty story. I opened it and read the tiny, scribbled handwriting. It simply said, "That's not how it was. I was there, and you raised enough money for 12 benches." Sarah's small act of kindness was a tiny pinprick of light, but it made me realize Claire's constant need to be the center of attention wasn't just my problem. Claire's need to be the star wasn't new. It was an old habit, a deep-seated pattern. After the restaurant incident, I couldn't stop thinking about all the times she had tried to steal my thunder. It was like a movie montage of small, selfish acts running through my mind. There was the time of my 30th birthday where she insisted on giving a long, tearful speech that somehow ended up being all about her new job promotion, not my birthday. Then there was the time I got a small, unexpected promotion at work, and she showed up at my congratulatory lunch with a huge bouquet of flowers, which she then kept on her side of the table for the whole meal, talking over me about her own upcoming goals. Every family event, every personal success, was somehow bent and shaped to serve as a spotlight for Claire. Her whole life seemed to be about making sure her light was the brightest, even if it meant turning mine off. I started to check the invitations and guest lists for past family parties. It was strange. I realized that a few times, a very nice, distant friend of mine, Mrs. Gable, who always spoke kindly about me, had her name on the RSVP list, but was repeatedly blocked from attending at the last minute because of a sudden health emergency in Claire's family. I had never noticed the pattern before. Now it stood out clearly. It felt wrong, like Claire was carefully managing who got to speak to me, even at my own events. The mystery of the blocked RSVPs and the mounting mean comments started to worry me, but I still wasn't sure how to fight back without becoming petty like Claire. Then, I received a message that changed everything. It wasn't from a family member, but from Mark, a friend of Claire's. He messaged me privately through a social media app. His message was short and to the point. I shouldn't be telling you this, but she's planning something big for the upcoming reunion. She's completely obsessed with making sure she's the only person anyone pays attention to. I felt a cold wave wash over me. I knew she was mad, but I didn't think she planned something big. Mark, trying to prove his point, sent me a screenshot. It was from a private chat between Claire and him, where she had written out a list of things she wanted to happen at the reunion. The screenshot detailed her spotlight plan. It was full of crazy ideas, like having a special, pre-written script for the host to introduce her with and arranging a professional photo shoot just for her. One line stood out like a warning sign. I'll finally put Eleanor in her place, where she can't steal the show. I felt a mix of fear and fury. This wasn't just a reaction. This was calculated malice. This was not a fight I could ignore anymore. This was a clear act of family betrayal. This had to stop, not for my sake, but to expose her pattern to everyone. The family reunion was set for the following weekend, and Claire started her public humiliation early. The venue was the grand ballroom at the local country club, and the first thing I saw when I drove up was a massive, bright banner hanging over the main entrance. It was supposed to welcome the Williams family reunion, but it looked more like a giant advertisement for my sister-in-law. The banner featured a huge, glamorous photo of Claire smiling widely, with a small, almost unreadable text underneath praising her years of dedication to family events. My brother's smaller picture was off to the side, and my name was nowhere to be found. In fact, most of the immediate family's names were absent. It was the start of the public humiliation she had planned. I parked my car and just stood there for a minute, staring at the banner, feeling the shame crawl over me. She had paid good money to make sure everyone walking into the event knew who the self-proclaimed star was. A few early guests, mainly distant relatives, walked past me and looked at the banner, then looked at me, and their smiles faded into confusion. I could practically hear their thoughts. Who does she think she is? I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. I knew I had to handle this with quiet strength. That evening, I drove past the venue again. The massive banner was still there, glowing under the streetlights, a symbol of Claire's ego. But when I drove past again, early the next morning on my way to work, the banner was gone. Completely vanished. It was a strange, small reversal, but it gave me a flash of hope. Someone else was clearly fed up with Claire's theatrics. I didn't know who had stolen the banner overnight, but I felt a small, secret wave of gratitude for the anonymous ally. The humiliation continued in professional settings, where Claire had an even sharper edge. We both served on a local art preservation committee, and I was scheduled to present a proposal for restoring the old town clock tower. I had spent months putting the presentation together, finding historical documents, and securing preliminary funding. Midway through my presentation, just as I was showing the architectural blueprints, Claire interrupted me. She stood up from her seat at the large mahogany table, loud and confident. "I'm sorry, Eleanor, but I must interject," she announced, silencing the room. She then proceeded to look directly at the committee chairman and declared that my funding ideas were weak and that she had pitched a similar, much better restoration plan 6 months ago. She then accused me of copying her ideas and making them look better just so I could get the credit. The room went icy. Everyone knew my work was thorough, but Claire's sheer confidence made them doubt. The chairman nervously cleared his throat, unsure how to proceed. I felt my voice catch in my throat, shocked by the boldness of the lie. Later, after the meeting broke up in confusion, I was gathering my papers when a committee member, David, who sat 2 chairs down, quietly approached me. He leaned in and whispered, his eyes wide with worry, that he had seen Claire plagiarize once before. He said she took a proposal from an intern several years ago and presented it as her own. His quiet confession was another piece of the puzzle, a secret proof that Claire's need for the spotlight went beyond family drama and into dishonesty. His shared suspicion solidified my decision. Her pattern of theft, both of ideas and attention, had to be revealed. After the meeting, I went home feeling completely drained. I realized that Claire's problem wasn't just wanting attention. It was about rewriting history to position herself as the hero in every story. I was tidying up some old family papers when I came across an old, leather-bound photo album that belonged to my late mother. I hadn't looked through it in years. I sat down and started flipping through the pages, remembering summer vacations and childhood birthdays. On one page, there was a picture of me, about 10 years old, standing next to a makeshift lemonade stand with a bright blue ribbon pinned to my shirt. I remembered winning that blue ribbon at the county fair for Best Homemade Citrus Drink. But beneath the photo, the caption had been scratched out and rewritten. Where it once said, Eleanor's first prize, it now read in thick, dark pen, Claire, the entrepreneurial spirit. She had not only changed the memory, but had used her handwriting to secretly replace captions on several pages to make herself the main character in many family stories, claiming credit for things she never did. Another page showed her handwriting over someone else's memory, a picture of my brother building a treehouse, with the caption changed to imply Claire had been the primary designer. It was a cold, calculated act of rewriting the past. This quiet evidence of her obsessive need for control was even more disturbing than her public outbursts. It showed that she was systematically trying to erase my life and the contributions of others. The discovery in the photo album was the turning point. I decided right then and there that I would not engage in a messy, back-and-forth public fight with her. I wouldn't yell, and I wouldn't name-call. If I did, I would become just as petty and attention-seeking as she was, and then she would win. My strategy would be different. I would collect proof and use her own actions against her. I would expose the pattern of her behavior, not attack her character. I went straight to my home office and opened a new, password-protected folder on my computer. I carefully named it Spotlight History. I started moving every piece of evidence I had gathered into it. The screenshot of her malicious text message, the grainy video clip of her mouthing, not her, David's contact information, and detailed notes on the rewritten photo captions. I spent hours writing down every instance of her spotlight theft I could recall over the last 5 years, noting the date, the witnesses, and the outcome. This folder was my quiet resolve. It was my proof that this wasn't an accident or a misunderstanding. It was a deliberate strategy of manipulation. My heart was still pounding with a mixture of fear and determination, but I felt calmer now that I had a plan. This was the foundation of the reckoning. Claire wanted a spotlight. I would give her one, but it would be focused entirely on the truth of her deceit. My quiet collection of evidence soon led to my first real ally. My niece, Maya, was 16, smart, and had always been quiet and observant. She was also deeply tired of her Aunt Claire's constant need for drama. A few days before the reunion, Maya came over to my house after school looking nervous. She shut the door tight and confessed that she was tired of Claire's theatrics and the way she made everyone feel small. Maya then pulled out her phone and showed me something incredible, a voice memo that Claire had accidentally recorded and sent to a group chat, thinking it was a voice-to-text message. The memo was about 3 minutes long and featured Claire talking to herself, clearly bragging about monopolizing family events and how easy it was to manipulate people into thinking she was the most important person there. In the recording, Claire laughed about how she convinced her college friend, Sam, to come to every event just to provide her with oohs and ahs on cue. The voice memo was undeniable proof of her calculated behavior. In the recording, Claire said, "Sam is the best. He knows exactly when to give me the big reaction." This was the name drop I needed. Maya looked me straight in the eye and said, "She makes everyone pretend. I don't want to pretend anymore." The voice memo ended abruptly, but it provided the name of a friend who could corroborate everything: the planned reactions, the staged praise, the entire fraudulent performance Claire had built over the years. The family reunion is days away, and Eleanor has her first piece of audio proof. Claire is about to find out that the niece she ignored is her downfall. If you want to see how Eleanor turns the tables on her sister-in-law, hit subscribe for more true revenge stories. Sam, the friend Claire had named in the voice memo, was the key to unlocking the full depth of her planning. He had been a reluctant participant in Claire's schemes for years, often looking uncomfortable at family gatherings. After hearing the voice memo, I messaged Sam, not with accusations, but with empathy, asking if he ever felt pressured by Claire. To my surprise, he responded immediately. He said he was tired of being her personal hype man. We met for coffee the next day, and he finally let the truth pour out. Sam admitted that Claire never left anything to chance. For every family gathering, every dinner, and certainly for the upcoming reunion, Claire would call him beforehand with a script. He would be instructed exactly when to offer a loud, impressed compliment, when to start a round of applause, and even what questions to ask to redirect the conversation back to her achievements. Sam was her corroborator, hired with praise and small gifts to ensure she always had a devoted fan in the crowd. It was exhausting, he admitted, looking relieved to finally share the burden. The worst part was that she would get angry if he missed his cue. Then he dropped a bombshell. He didn't just admit that Claire rehearsed staged surprises. He said he had proof of the planning for the upcoming reunion. He told me that just last week, Claire had made him film a rehearsal video of her entrance at the country club just to make sure the lighting and timing were perfect for her big moment. The rehearsal tape Sam showed me was shocking, not for its quality, but for its sheer level of calculated fakery. It was a shaky clip, filmed in the empty ballroom of the country club. Claire was walking through her entire planned grand entrance for the reunion. She was wearing a sweeping gown and practicing dramatic poses at the doorway. But the most important part of the clip was the sound. Claire wasn't just rehearsing her walk, she was rehearsing her audience. The clip showed her stopping and directing Sam and another person, presumably her husband, my brother. "When I stop here, Sam, you start the clapping. Not weak applause, but applause," she commanded in a sharp, demanding voice. She would then practice her slight, humble bow and turn to my brother. "And darling, when I talk about my dedication, I need you to loudly say, 'Ooh, ah, you're so inspiring, Claire.'" It was all manufactured, down to the last, ooh and ah. The laughter and stunned silence from the video confirmed everything Maya's voice memo suggested. They were scripting applause and engineering spontaneous moments. The tape was crucial evidence because it proved her actions were not merely impulsive. They were meticulously planned acts of emotional fraud against her own family. Sam looked at me nervously after the clip ended. He then told me that this entire rehearsal was for her big finale plan for the reunion. It wasn't just an entrance. She had a 40-minute segment blocked off. After the rehearsal tape, I started looking at Claire's online life with new eyes. Her social media was a glossy highlight reel of supposed spontaneous greatness. I spent a long evening compiling a record of her posts, specifically looking for instances where she edited captions after the fact. The online pattern was undeniable. For example, a picture from a hiking trip initially credited my husband with finding the perfect viewpoint. 2 days later, the caption was quietly changed to, "My personal dedication to fitness led me right to this magnificent view." Another post about organizing a children's book drive originally mentioned me, but the edited version deleted my name entirely, giving her sole credit. The pattern was so clear it looked like a business strategy. She was managing her personal brand by erasing everyone else's contributions. This compilation turned into a powerful visual timeline of her selfishness. Then, I received yet another piece of accidental evidence. Claire's social media manager, a young woman named Chloe, who handled her more professional networking accounts, made a mistake. Chloe intended to send a direct message to a scheduler about an upcoming public speaking gig, but she accidentally sent it to me instead. The message contained a frank, terrible admission. "We need to make sure this event is highly publicized. Claire needs to be the star. The last family event was too close for comfort." Chloe quickly deleted the message, but I was fast enough to get a screenshot. This corporate language proved that Claire's need for the spotlight was a conscious, paid-for marketing project. The evidence quickly moved from social media proof to hard scheduling facts. I called the country club where the reunion was being held, pretending to be the catering manager who needed to confirm timing. I asked the club's event coordinator for a copy of the final schedule the family had submitted. What I saw confirmed Sam's warning. Claire had indeed privately booked the main stage time, not just a segment, but a huge, uninterrupted 40-minute block right in the middle of the evening. The schedule was detailed: 7 p.m., family dinner; 8 p.m., Claire Harrison, family address and recognition ceremony; 8:40 p.m., general family acknowledgements, 10-minute slot. She had allocated only a 10-minute slot for everyone else combined, including my award, Aunt Susan's promotion celebration, and the traditional yearly toast to our grandparents. The title of her segment, listed in bold 20-point font, was simply, "Grand Finale Claire." It was a shocking display of self-importance. She had paid for the entire evening, but only to ensure her moment was long and unquestioned. I thanked the coordinator, my voice sounding strained. I now had proof of her intent to steal the entire evening, not just a small moment. She wasn't seeking recognition. She was actively trying to monopolize attention and silence any other voice of celebration. My investigation then led me to a distant, wealthy uncle, Uncle George, who was also the host and master of ceremonies for the gala where the whole mess began. He had always been kind but easily swayed by flattery. I met him for lunch, and after some polite conversation, I gently brought up the reunion schedule. He looked deeply uncomfortable. He finally admitted that Claire had approached him weeks ago with a specific request. She promised him the prime seating, right next to the family matriarch, which was a huge honor if he would make sure to push her forward in the order of speakers and make her segment the longest. It was pure bribery of attention. Uncle George, who deeply loved his seating arrangement, had agreed. He looked genuinely guilty as he confessed. She said it was critical for her professional charity image, he mumbled, sipping his water. I just wanted to make Nana happy by sitting next to her. He had allowed himself to be manipulated into hijacking the entire family schedule. He was an unwilling conspirator in her spotlight theft. Now, knowing the full plan, the uncle worries about how it will look if exposed. He kept repeating, I just hope nobody finds out I took a bribe for a chair. His worry was another sign that Claire's selfishness hurt not just me, but the people she used. His fear confirmed that the exposure of her methods would have real consequences for the reputation she tried so hard to build. I reassured him I wasn't there to judge him. I was there to stop the manipulation. The manufactured moments of Claire's life weren't limited to speeches and seating charts. They extended to her entire visual legacy. I started noticing that at every major family event, Claire always had one specific photographer following her, snapping pictures that always ended up looking like they were taken for a magazine, not a family album. I tracked down the name of this photographer, an independent contractor named Leo. When I called Leo, he was hesitant at first, but after I explained I wasn't going to sue, he finally opened up. He admitted that Claire had specifically hired him, not just to photograph the event, but to capture staged, spontaneous moments that would later be used to rewrite family memory. He showed me his job descriptions. Capture Claire looking deeply compassionate while holding a child's hand. And take photos of Claire laughing heartily at a joke she herself made. He showed me his payment receipts, and the amounts were substantial. Claire was literally paying for her public image. This was more than vanity, it was active deceit. Leo was embarrassed and tired of the fakery. He texts a late apology. She paid well, but I can't do it anymore. His confession and his records were the final nail in the coffin regarding the staged nature of her life. My final piece of physical evidence came from the most unexpected place, a local community center. Claire had been bragging for months about winning the Community Champion Award from the center the previous spring. It was a large, brass plaque she kept prominently displayed in her living room. I called the center's director, asking about the requirements for that specific award. The director politely informed me that the Community Champion Award hadn't been given out in 5 years and was only given for sustained national work. When I described the plaque, the director sounded confused. I then located the local vendor who made custom plaques. I called them, and after a bit of digging, the owner confirmed that Claire had commissioned a plaque that spring. It wasn't an award, it was a vanity plaque she had commissioned herself, paying with her own credit card. He still had the receipt showing her deposit for the custom Community Champion plaque. The vendor, realizing he had unknowingly participated in a lie, was willing to testify about the private commission. He called me nervously later that day, worried about his business reputation, confirming that she paid him to forge a fake award. This was the most shocking evidence yet, proving she was willing to fake official recognition to feed her ego. The web of manipulation grew even wider when I was approached by a PR consultant named Jessica. Jessica lived in my neighborhood and specialized in reputation management. She looked uncomfortable when she mentioned Claire. Jessica revealed that Claire had secretly hired a small PR consultant to boost her image within the local charitable circuit, but the contract was short-lived because Claire's demands were impossible. She didn't want to do good. She just wanted to look good, Jessica explained. Jessica was thoroughly embarrassed by the association and felt deeply uncomfortable when she saw how Claire treated me. To make amends, she offered to help quietly. Jessica had a file, a detailed list of every event Claire had hijacked, complete with suggested scripts Claire gave her to promote her. Jessica's expertise was invaluable, and her contact list of local reporters was a resource I knew I might need. She gave me the full, documented list of events where Claire manipulated media coverage and attention. The list was pages long and dated back 4 years. The night before the family reunion, my brother and Claire hosted a small, private dinner at their house. I was invited, and I decided to go, knowing it would be my last chance to observe her behavior before the big reveal. Claire's best friend, Lisa, was also there. Lisa had been drinking heavily, and at one point, she and Claire went into the kitchen. I stood just outside the doorway, pretending to admire the art. I heard Claire and Lisa talking, but I also heard Lisa's phone, which she had accidentally left on a countertop, clearly recording the conversation. Lisa was drunkenly recording Claire gloating about her past successes. Claire said, "Honestly, I've been stealing the show since childhood. Remember Mom's 50th? I made sure my engagement ring was announced first." She laughed, a high, sharp, hateful sound, about how easy it was to overshadow me and everyone else. My heart pounded as I listened to the raw, unfiltered malice. This was the final emotional proof I needed, the confirmation that she felt zero remorse. Later that night, the friend, Lisa, realized what she had done. She texts me, "I didn't mean to record that, Eleanor. I'll deny it if anyone asks." I thanked her but kept the recording safe. I knew she would deny it, but I no longer needed her help. I had the truth locked away. The stage was set, and the evidence was stacked. It was time for the final push. I called a strategy meeting, not with lawyers, but with my small, determined team of allies, Maya, the niece, Sam, the corroborator, and Jessica, the PR consultant. We met at a quiet corner booth in a deserted library cafe. I calmly laid out the plan. We would execute a humane, factual reveal at the reunion, the very place Claire expected to shine the brightest. The key was to remain factual, using her own words and receipts. Jessica advised on how to handle the inevitable social fallout, and Sam confirmed he would be ready to step forward. Maya, my brilliant teenage ally, had the most important job. I handed her a tiny remote control connected to a small projector I had rented. Maya looked up, her eyes bright with determination. She said, "Aunt Eleanor, I'll press play when you nod." She'll never know what hit her. The air was thick with tension and excitement. We weren't attacking her. We were simply letting the facts speak for themselves. The next day, I had everything ready to dismantle the self-made star. The day of the family reunion arrived. Claire was ecstatic. She posted a constant, glamorous countdown to her big entrance on social media, filled with perfect selfies and dramatic lighting. Every family member seemed to have RSVP'd, eager for the food and the drama. I bought my ticket, the same as everyone else, but I wore a simple black dress, determined to remain inconspicuous. I was one of the first to arrive, and I chose a seat in the front row, slightly off-center, where I could see the stage clearly and had a perfect line of sight to Maya, who was hiding near the projector booth. I watched Claire's posts flood my phone. This is my moment. So much hard work has gone into this. Time to shine. The sheer arrogance gave me the strength I needed. She had no idea the trap she was walking into. I simply sat, breathed, and waited for her arrival. I arrived at the venue early and quietly rearranged the placed cards on the front two tables. This was the seating roulette. I made sure that Claire's seat was strategically placed so she was boxed in by witnesses. On one side of her sat Sam, the man who recorded the rehearsal clip. On the other side sat Mr. Jenkins, the vendor who confirmed the staged community award. Right across the table, I placed Maya and myself. This was not about physical restraint. It was about surrounding her with the factual evidence of her deceit. She would not be able to escape the truth, no matter which way she turned. Next, I made sure the music was set. Jessica had helped me create a seemingly innocent playlist file for the background music, but hidden within the file was a short audio cue, a silent trigger that would tell Maya to activate the projector at the perfect moment. I looked at the seating chart, feeling a strange mix of calm and adrenaline. The stage was set, the witnesses were in place, and the trap was firmly closed. Just before the family started arriving, I took a small, brightly colored note card and wrote a simple, polite message. "Claire, tonight is about all of us. Let's celebrate together. Eleanor." I walked over to the main table and placed the note right next to her place setting. I wasn't being genuine. I was creating a clear record of her intent. When Claire finally swept in, late and loud, she saw the note immediately. She scoffed, loudly enough for a few people to hear, and tossed the card onto the floor without reading it. "How desperate!" she muttered, adjusting her crown-like hair clip. Her refusal of even the smallest gesture of peace was exactly what I needed. It proved her entire focus was on herself. I smiled inwardly. The trap was set, and she had just slammed the door shut on her own escape route. I saw Sam slip into his seat, nodding slightly. Then I saw a text from Sam with the rehearsal tape. "Ready. The spotlight is yours now, Eleanor." The ballroom lights dimmed, and a hushed silence fell over the crowd. The band started playing a dramatic, uplifting score. Claire made her dramatic entrance, pausing at the doorway for a full 30 seconds, letting the lights shine only on her. The room applauded on cue, exactly as scripted in Sam's rehearsal video. She preened, accepting the manufactured praise, waving slightly like a queen. She was absolutely convinced this was her victory. She walked slowly to the stage, took the microphone, and started her long, self-congratulatory speech. I sat calmly in the front row, not smiling, not frowning, just breathing. I met Maya's eyes across the room. My niece was standing behind the projection screen, a small black remote hidden in her hand. Claire paused for a moment of dramatic effect, ready to move into the segment about her greatest achievements. I gave Maya a small, almost invisible nod. The stage was now mine. Claire was mid-sentence, declaring that the family reunion was a testament to her organizational skills and dedication, when I stood up quietly. I didn't rush or interrupt harshly. I simply raised my hand to the host, Uncle George, who was standing nervously near the podium. "Excuse me, Uncle George," I said, my voice calm but carrying. Before Claire continues with her dedication speech, I was hoping we could show a short memory montage I prepared for the family. Claire looked annoyed but waved her hand dismissively, assuming I was presenting a video of her past charity work. "Go ahead, Eleanor, a little praise never hurt," she said, preening. The main ballroom lights dimmed slightly, and the massive projection screen behind her came to life. It didn't show photos. The screen lit up and started playing the shaky, candid rehearsal clips Sam had filmed. The sound, piped through the ballroom speakers, was crystal clear. The room erupted in gasps of confusion and then shocked silence as Claire's voice filled the hall. "When I stop here, Sam, you start the clapping. Not weak applause, but applause." Claire's face, frozen in a mask of triumph just seconds before, registered absolute, devastating betrayal. The sound of Claire's own voice coaching her audience continued to play over the speakers. The rehearsal video played for 2 full, excruciating minutes. The family watched, stunned, as Claire commanded relatives to ooh and ah at her entrance, scripted her husband's praise, and timed her humble bows perfectly. The spontaneous joy they had witnessed moments ago was revealed to be a cold, hard piece of theater. Laughter turned to stunned silence, followed by nervous murmuring as people began to look around at each other, realizing they had been fooled and manipulated for years. Claire, initially frozen, let out a sound like a wounded animal. Her eyes, darting from the screen to me, were full of cold fury. She lunged to turn off the screen, running to the projector booth, but Maya was too fast. My niece had already activated the safety lock and slipped away. Claire clawed at the power cord, but it was useless. The scene of her rehearsing her spotlight theft played on loop, dismantling her reputation, one fake ooh at a time. With Claire still struggling with the projector, I gently took the microphone from the host. "The spotlight deserves truth," I announced, holding up the invoice from the vanity plaque vendor. "Now I'd like to introduce the photographer Claire hired for tonight, Mr. Leo." Leo, looking nervous but determined, walked onto the stage. He explained to the silent audience that he was not hired to capture the family. He was hired to stage shots of Claire looking compassionate and spontaneous. He then opened a file on his laptop, which was connected to the screen, and showed receipts and dates proving he had been hired for every major family event for the last 3 years to capture only Claire's best moments. He showed the family the actual instruction sheets, staged candid, Claire giving advice to younger relative. Guests murmured loudly, realizing their shared memories were manufactured. Claire, defeated by the projector, sputtered from the side of the stage. "He's lying. Eleanor paid him." But the receipts were in her name, and the timeline matched her rise to family star. I knew I had to expose the fake award next, the one she used to build her reputation. "And finally," I said, my voice clear and strong, "let's discuss recognition that is earned versus recognition that is bought." I invited Mr. Jenkins, the plaque vendor, to the stage. He confirmed that the brass Community Champion Award Claire often showed off was not a community award, but a vanity plaque she commissioned and paid for herself. He showed the invoice, complete with her personal checking account number and the request for the specific wording. It was undeniable. The entire room was shifting now. Faces that had been skeptical were turning to shock. Claire's reputation was collapsing in real time, built on a foundation of lies and deceit. I saw a local reporter in the crowd whisper intensely to a guest, "This is huge. She's been faking her entire charity resume." The local news would have a feast. The final pieces of evidence were the most personal. I connected my phone to the screen and scrolled through Claire's social media. I showed the original photo captions and the social manager slip, the screenshot of Chloe admitting Claire needs to be the star. The pattern was no longer a theory. It was a documented history of emotional fraud. I explained how Claire scripted posts and edited family captions to claim credit. Then, Maya, standing far away near the exit, pressed a button on her remote. The final audio clip played, the drunken recording of Claire gloating about manipulating the family and stealing the show since childhood. The sound of her hateful laughter was sickening. It showed her heartlessness more clearly than any photo. The room finally understood. This was not a misunderstanding, it was a character flaw. The room divided instantly. Relatives who were close to Claire looked embarrassed and defensive, while those who had felt overshadowed, like my cousin Sarah and Uncle George, looked relieved. Living memory started to change in real time as people compared notes, realizing how they had been duped. Many family members started to rise from their seats, walking over to me to offer quiet apologies for not seeing the truth sooner. Others clung to Claire's charm, denying the evidence and claiming I was being overly dramatic. But the factual evidence, the receipts, the voice memos, the professional testimony, was overwhelming. Claire, realizing she had lost control of her audience, launched her last desperate counterattack. "You did this out of jealousy. You're sabotaging me. You never wanted me to be happy," she screamed, pointing a trembling finger at me. I kept my voice low and steady, not rising to meet her rage. This was the moment for the calm cross-examination. I held up the printed timeline I had prepared. "I did not sabotage you, Claire. I simply presented facts you created." I walked through the timeline. July 15th, you paid the vendor for a fake award. August 1st, you rehearsed scripted applause. August 5th, you booked the stage for 40 minutes, leaving 10 for everyone else. Today, you rejected my note of peace. No name calling, only facts. I concluded. You were not sabotage, Claire. You were simply documented. Claire, realizing the facts were irrefutable, tried her tearful last resort, the one she practiced for. "I just wanted to be loved. I just wanted to be loved by the family." But the tears were too late, too performative, and they looked exactly like the scripted emotions in the rehearsal video. The moment the plaque vendor confessed, a family friend who worked for a major online media company had started live-streaming the entire dramatic reveal. By the time I finished the cross-examination, the clip of the photographer's testimony and the fake award receipt was already trending with the hashtag #SpotlightGate. The clip spread like wildfire through the local community groups, quickly overshadowing Claire's glamorous countdown posts. Her carefully crafted image was shattering publicly. The viral exposure made everything real. I watched as Claire frantically checked her phone, her eyes wide with panic. The fallout was instant. Her PR contacts started distancing themselves with public tweets and statements, claiming they only managed digital scheduling and had no knowledge of her personal choices. The spotlight she craved was finally on her, but it was a harsh, unflattering light of truth. The social fallout was swift and severe. By the next morning, Claire's carefully cultivated image of a community champion had collapsed. The local historical society, where she held a volunteer position, issued a neutral statement promising a full review of her conduct. She was pulled from a major committee she chaired, and her invitations to charity balls were quietly revoked. The sponsorships and volunteer roles that gave her status were gone. The most painful blow came later that afternoon when her mother, my mother-in-law, called me in a fury of anger and denial. "How dare you expose her like this? She's family," she screamed, defending Claire without asking a single question about the truth. It was a clear sign that, even with undeniable evidence, some people would always choose to live in Claire's comforting lie. The family divide was complete. The family cleanse began as an emotional flood of apologies. Relatives who had been coached to fake reactions, the cousins who always clapped too loud, the aunts who complimented her dress on cue, all started reaching out. They admitted their discomfort publicly in the family group chat, apologizing to me for being manipulated into participating in the charade. They were relieved to be free from her tyranny of perfection. Claire, unable to face the truth or the family, left the reunion early, retreating to her car, crying in a highly visible way in the parking lot. The tears, however, seemed to have no effect this time. The world now knew she was an actress, not a victim. The shame followed her. Claire, in a final attempt to salvage her reputation, posted a long, tearful, and emotionally charged apology on social media the day after the reunion. It was full of vague regrets and promises to do better. But the apology sounded scripted, almost word for word like the vulnerable lines she had rehearsed for the reunion. The public reaction was brutal. People who had watched the rehearsal clips instantly called her out for inauthenticity. The comments were filled with receipts and screenshots from the leaked footage. The final blow came when a former ally posted receipts of payments Claire made to secure favor with local council members for event permits. This exposure proved her manipulation was not just emotional, it was financial and political. The post ended with a simple hashtag performance over. Days after the reunion, I drove past Claire in my brother's house. I saw her car in the driveway, and through the window, I could see her quietly moving around. She wasn't preparing for a new event. She was boxing up the family photos she'd staged and the vanity awards she had purchased. Her entire spotlight was being quietly packed away, removed from her public displays. The evidence of her deceit was gone, replaced by empty spaces on the walls. The absence felt like a small, quiet victory. She was forced to confront the lack of real substance in her life. As I watched her, she paused near the fireplace. She left one photo behind, the original family photo before any of her edits, a faded, honest picture of all of us, slightly awkward and messy. It was a sign that perhaps, somewhere deep down, she acknowledged the real history. I decided that the family needed to heal in an honest way. I worked with the cousins and my niece Maya to organize a new gathering. It was smaller, held at Aunt Susan's garden, and focused on real memories and honest conversation. There was no staging, no professional cameras for PR, and no agenda. It was warm, low-key, and wonderfully imperfect. People shared real, slightly embarrassing stories about their lives, not scripted triumphs. The tension was gone, replaced by genuine connection. The niece, Maya, brought a box of old, unedited photos from the 80s and 90s, and we laughed over the terrible fashion and bad haircuts. This reunion was about catharsis and repair. It was the true family moment Claire had tried to destroy. A week later, Claire showed up unexpectedly at my door. She was dressed simply and looked genuinely tired, the glossy veneer gone. She didn't deliver an emotional speech. Instead, she handed me a handwritten note, folded neatly. It wasn't an apology speech. It was a small, private acceptance of responsibility for her lies. I accepted the note and invited her in. I spoke calmly, setting clear boundaries. I accept your note, Claire, but trust will take a long time to earn back. This is where the public performance ends. She nodded, accepting the new terms. She then quietly volunteered to help unpack boxes of supplies for the local food bank I was organizing. She was genuinely quiet this time, not seeking attention, just working. It was a small, fragile step toward a life lived without the need for constant applause. A few months later, at Thanksgiving, we took a new family photo. It was unedited, with small imperfections. Uncle George's shirt was wrinkled, and Maya was making a silly face. The picture was shared among relatives without a caption, and without any fanfare. It was simply a photograph of a family, honest and flawed. Later that evening, my brother approached me looking relieved. He pointed to the picture on his phone and said, his voice thick with emotion, "This one feels like us, Eleanor." Thank you. The feeling of balance and authenticity was more satisfying than any revenge I could have planned. The healing was slow, but it was real. I stood on my porch, watching the late afternoon sun fall across my neighbor's lawn. My life was calmer now, built on authentic relationships, not manipulative performances. I reflected on the events of the past year. Claire had wanted the light to be only hers, believing that if she shone brightly enough, no one else could be seen. I realized my revenge was not the humiliation, but the truth. I simply showed everyone that the brightest spotlight is the one we all stand in together. When truth shows up, the self-made star has to decide: bow out or learn to share the stage. Claire was finally learning to share. The truth didn't just expose the darkness, it allowed the real light to finally shine on everyone. If you found this story of justice and family repair satisfying, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of Eleanor's quiet revenge in the comments.